I'm sort of in the shadow, and I'm sure that video editors, this lighting arrangement would drive them crazy, but you know what? It's awesome because you can see everything else and you can't see me very well. So that's the way I like it. Um, I will say that I'm doing this in the morning. I know it's different, and Mercury retrograde is over. Now, you may think that that has nothing to do with anything, and I don't necessarily believe in a lot of astrology stuff, but I've always been fascinated by it. And then this Mercury retrograde, to me, I know this is all, people's thoughts about things, but to me, this Mercury retrograde has just been like going over every communication issue that I have. Everyone. If there's a communication issue that I have that's, not working or I think it's come up during these past, I believe it's 3 weeks or so that Mercury has been in retrograde. Um, and now I think it went out officially yesterday. So for a couple weeks, supposedly, I mean, it is in the shadow or coming out of the shadow. And so there might be some of those things, but they probably won't be as intense as they have been for the past 2 or 3 weeks. That's what astrologers say. And I have just, more than probably any other Mercury retrograde, I've noticed that happening a lot recently. And I say all that because this morning I was really kind of fighting mad about everything. We had such a great weekend. I did get to do live comedy. I'm very thankful for that. And there were probably 60 or 70 people where I got to do it. Um, and I mean, there were probably 5 or 6 people with suffocation devices, and everybody else was just, acting like a normal human being, which was awesome. And then last night, we went to a game night, which is really fun. And the adults got to be together, the kids got to be together, and it was just, it was really cool. So I enjoyed that. I'm about to sneeze. Oh my gosh. That means I'm going to test positive for the COVID or whatever you want to call it. I'm not afraid of any of this. I've sneezed and coughed, and I'm not afraid of any of this. I've been acting like a normal human being since this thing began almost a year ago. And so has all of our family really. And, everything's been fine. And I know some people will say that the true virus believers, VIRUS believers will say, oh my gosh, you're just lucky. You're lucky. Well, shouldn't scientists be studying people like us, our family, who has somehow managed to go through this unscathed? I mean, yeah, we might be pretty healthy and have a good immune system, which I do appreciate, but I don't know that it's, I mean, if all this stuff is real that you're hearing on the mainstream news, then, we are some kind of super immune family. And there are a lot of other families that are like us and people. When I saw a bunch of comics and other people together and there were audience members, it was really cool Saturday night. And I also mentioned, I know I started a lot of sentences Saturday night and didn't finish them. Sometimes I do that, even when Mercury's not in retrograde. But one sentence I started was about Texas, and please pray for people there because these psychological operations, we don't know how much they have to do with the powers that shouldn't be, but they are affecting real people. So, and also, I heard the suggestion if you were able to get to Texas and help people, if you have family members there, now's a good time to do that. If you can do so easily, they need help. I have no idea why. I mean, we've had ice storms in North Carolina for decades, centuries probably. And the power's gone out. It will go out sometimes for a day or two. When I was a little girl, when I've been there, it hasn't gone out quite as much. But I don't know why there's so many problems in Texas with things. I really don't. And the story I heard on NPR the other day was that well, the person I heard, okay, first of all, I'm not sure. I caught it too late to see, what her name was or anything, but she was this is showing that Texas has tried to be independent, and we don't want that. And how we have to cut down carbon emissions, because carbon emissions are what's causing all this climate change. Anyway, that was the last one of the last sentences that she said, and I thought, gosh, this whole. I mean, I don't know about how much of the Texas stuff is as I say, done by the government or whatever. But I do know that National Propaganda Radio is using this spin it so that, oh my gosh, uh, what are we going to do? Um, we've got to reduce carbon emissions. Carbon is an element, by the way. My 18-year-old is taking chemistry, and carbon is an element. Even before he took chemistry, I knew that. But it's being demonized now, as is breathing and oxygen. It's all being demonized. So anyway, some people are still believing this stuff. So this morning I was going for a walk, and I went over to the neighborhood that's across the road, and I don't usually walk in there. And then I saw this woman walking toward me, and then she went off the sidewalk onto the street. And I'm really so tired of that. I'm tired of I'm feeling feisty because I'm tired of this, people avoiding other people because they think they have the plague, you know. That's not happening with everyone, but I'm tired of it happening at all. It didn't happen a year ago, and nothing's changed. Nothing's changed regarding the law, and nothing has changed. I mean, there have been laws passed, but nothing's changed, with laws about 6 feet and suffocating yourself and all that. A lot of local governments have tried to pass that kind of thing, but it goes against the Constitution and the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So nothing's changed really, in terms of the law regarding all that. And I can't see anything that's changed in terms of sickness or VIRUSs. Now, I know there have been a lot of positive tests, and I know that that's all that's needed these days to make a COVID diagnosis. So, I know people are afraid, and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of fear. You know, my aunt by adoption, but my aunt, I grew up with her in a lot of ways. Went out to her house a lot, and I would have described her as one of the most godly women I know. Until March. Well, no, until later, because we didn't know how she felt about things, but I had an idea. And she has been my Sunday school teacher, and there's been another Sunday school teacher that I know. These are good, godly women. I would have described as, good, godly women, and they are participating in this demonic mask wearing ritual, which is what it is. They are participating in that. And if you go to her house now, she will come to the door with that. And he was 15 years old then when he was selling popcorn, and he went to this woman's house. She was a teacher of mine, and she always liked talking to my kids. When we sold her popcorn for a few years when we've been in North Carolina. And this year she came to the door, with a suffocation device on in her own house. That's how fearful people are. And I guarantee you that my aunt and my other Sunday school teacher that I had, all these people would not be participating in this demonic mask wearing ritual if it were not for their preachers telling them so. And I know that people are like, well, you're not a preacher. You can't say anything against the man of God. But how many men of God participate in demonic mask wearing, mask wearing, I want to get deleted, mask wearing rituals? Okay. If your preacher is participating in this, then you need to find another church. And when we went to Montana and we were with 200 or 300 people with no mask, the preacher was not wearing a mask. He could really feel the Holy Spirit. Nobody got sick from that. And yeah, I feel like my kids, part of the reason wanted them in North Carolina for, we spend long amounts of time in there is because I wanted them to meet these wonderful people in LA. I think it's harder to see older people, and I think it's harder to, you don't have that mix of people that you do in North Carolina. I think so. And yet, um, I've noticed that, now that that's just all evaporated because these people are all obstructing their breathing and they're all participating in this demonic ritual, and they have no idea that they're doing it. I mean, they really, I think they don't. And you know why they're doing it? They were participating in it because the preacher told them to. And I even saw a sign at a church that said, stay 6 feet away from other people. That's how tall our pastor is. I'm not making this up. And then they took what, kind of this dehumanized figure of a, stick man and put it horizontal and said, you're supposed to say this far away. This is our pastor, Pastor whatever, John. This is Pastor John. He's 6 feet tall. We're laying him down on the ground, and you're supposed to say that, Pastor John's length away from other people. And pastors are falling for this. It's sad. And I'm not judging, I cannot judge whether they're men of God, but, if they're participating in that and allowing themselves to be demeaned like that, I don't know. I mean, I'm not calling them men of God. I'm not following them, but a lot of people are. And people, especially older people, have been taught to trust their doctors and their preachers just without question because they're not questioning any of this. And I also saw there was a funeral. A friend of mine's fiance died, and I was looking through the obituaries, and um, in is in the South, and there was a woman who died, and I thought a lot of her. Her husband was in the military, and the the woman, not my friend's fiance's funeral, but another funeral, and I looked, and a bunch of funerals said this: mass, sorry, MASKS, are required at all services. Yeah, that's what it said. So had we been there, I couldn't have even gone to the funeral at the church where they're all participating, and you're required to participate in this demonic mask wearing ritual, pagan and demonic. I mean, I said that one time, and this pagan person was like, we don't wear masks. Don't call us that. Like, okay, so maybe it's just satanic, you know. Um, it is a ritual, and I've been to funerals and seen preachers do the ritual, take it off, take it on, humanize themselves, make and then take it off when they can speak, and then they sit back down and they dehumanize themselves again. That is such a affront to God. And so in Montana, we met this woman who was 89 years old. She was totally awesome. I think I've talked about her before, but she was not afraid. And she asked one of my sons, she said, "You're not afraid, are you?" And he said, "No, ma'am." And she said, "Good. You should not be afraid." She's 89 years old. The only place she ever wears an mask is when she has to accompany her daughter to the hospital, and her daughter's got some health issues. And that's the only time, is when and that's a shame. They shouldn't make people do that for medical practices should not make, medical industry should not make people do that, but they are because they're a part of this. So but it was a blessing to see her, to hug her, to listen to her. And I realized that we've been missing all of that, because my aunt won't even let anybody in the house. You know, probably a lot of people won't. And there was that teacher that came to the door and she had on an mask on her own property. And it's a shame, but those people are choosing this. And, I was around, I don't know, a whole bunch of people this weekend, maybe 100 all total. And, I enjoy that. And I think that it's keeping us healthy physically and mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And I'm sad about all these people that we can't see anymore. But, God is also putting in people like that 89-year-old woman in Montana who said, "Don't be afraid." And you know how I know that she was a godly woman? She wasn't afraid. She wasn't only saying, "Don't be afraid," she was actually not afraid. And she was not afraid to hug. She was not afraid to talk. In fact, I accidentally bumped into her. I was getting They had an author, Thomas DiLorenzo, that I really love, and I was said something to him. I was kind of backing up, and I backed into her, and she was happy that I backed into her. I said, "I'm sorry," but she was good with it, and that started this really long conversation. And this just, loving, wonderful, awesome woman. And so, and I believe more preachers would say, her preacher was saying, don't participate in this mess and sees through the deception. But unfortunately, a lot of the pastors that I grew up with and a lot of pastors around me are not seeing through it. Therefore, a lot of people who fully trust them without questioning are following this stuff. And it's sad. And I feel a loss of that for my kids and for me. But you know what? Meeting that 89-year-old, totally rocking Montana woman, those Montana women are strong. And meeting her and talking to her, it was just such a blessing. Really, really cool. Very thankful for that. So, and you know what? I feel very energized now. Like I don't want to, I want to stop that woman who, people who feel like they have to feel far away from me, or others. I mean, it's not just me, but I noticed that they feel like they have to be far away and they can't get too close. And they can't talk, and they've got to cover their face, and they've got to. So sad. And I want this to stop. And so maybe we can think of ideas. I know I've been posting a lot of anti-masker club uh, uh, videos. That guy goes around and he has friends with him, and they're strength in numbers. And they go in and he has a bullhorn and he goes through different places and he tells the people to take off masks. I love it. And that's what it's going to take. If we all start doing stuff like that, this stuff will end. And I was watching Liberty Fellowship. I'll end with this. I'll read the poem. I was watching Liberty Fellowship yesterday, and I'll put that link up as well. They don't they have the live stream, and then which I post, and then I usually go in and post the sermon when they've edited it, and put it up the next day. So I was watching that yesterday, and Pastor Chuck Baldwin, who sees through the deception of all this. Some preachers do. Some preachers do see through it. And he said if every church, not just Christian churches, synagogues, temples, the whole, all of the religions in the world could see this truth and preach it, or however you have that, the spiritual leaders could see through this deception, that this stuff would end. Their parishioners, or however you say that, their congregations would see through this stuff. And, problem is not so much with the government. I know we blame the government, but the problem is in the pulpits with truth is not being preached. Pastors are being dehumanized by, let's put pastor between two stick figures and make sure that we point it out, Pastor John. And that's how far you have to stay apart. So automatically, your mind goes to, well, I imagine Pastor John being lying down. Okay, is that a position of power? No. That's a very subtle symbolic image that is very destructive to a pastor. And people are falling for it, and pastors are falling for it all over the place. And churches, the church I grew up in is still, I won't say they're completely closed, but to my knowledge, they haven't started Wednesday night services, and they're doing this kind of limited parking lot church in the on Sundays. No Sunday school, no singing, of course. And you know what? Um, I did parking lot comedy Saturday night, uh, and it's okay. Um, not this past Saturday night. This past Saturday night, I actually went into a club in the full bar. I was able to get my Coke with cherries in it, and it was awesome, and I loved it. And that's what churches need to be doing. And some of them are, but some of them are just bowing down. Most of them, I would say, 95% of them are just bowing down and worshiping demons and participating in a demonic ritual. And no matter what your religion, if all of this stuff, if these spiritual people who claim to be spiritual and men of God or whatever, if they would just see through this and spread that word, they have a tremendous amount of power. This stuff would stop. Otherwise, it's not going to stop if we don't stop it. So I'm hoping that now we're out of Mercury retrograde, we can move on, that we really start to figure out how we can help this stuff to end. I mean, I know going in, here my husband and I went in Ralph's last night. No, yeah, it was Ralph's in Orange County, and we got after the game night, and we got some stuff. And I know that's good, but maybe we need to step it up a little bit. So if you have ideas about how to step up this thing to end things, please put them in the comment section. I would really appreciate hearing those ideas. Maybe we can put some into action. Finally, now a poem. Probably so. Tonight, I have two spiders clinging to a crack in the wall, and there's one fly loose. A new woman lies in my bed in the next room reading the Herald Examiner. She has cooked, washed the dishes, and cleaned the tub. She has done a good job. I sit alone in here with the spiders and the fly. I hear her laugh at something in the newspaper. She seems happy. I don't see how those little spiders are ever going to get that fly. Everybody waits. Everything waits. Am I the only one who lives like this? Probably so. That is the title of the poem. And I'm going to put that sermon up. In fact, I'll probably put it in the comment section as well. I'm going to put that up on the page later today. And I hope you can watch that. It's great if you love God. And even if you don't believe in God, he says a lot about freedom that's just so very true. And he says you don't have to be a Christian to believe in freedom. That's true. Christians don't have a monopoly on freedom. So anyway, I hope you'll think about stuff you can do. If you're in a church that's participating in any shape, form, or fashion in this demonic mask wearing ritual, I hope you'll stop. And I hope you'll find Liberty Fellowship is a church, and then there are some churches that are meeting, or maybe start your own. But these mainstream establishment churches that have been basically being paid off by the government through 501c3, bought and sold by the government, most of them are participating in this demonic mask wearing ritual, and I'm staying away from them. Okay, I hope that you will have a wonderful rest of the day.